So yeah, today I obviously was reading an article from Annie, and you guys can, it's free to read. You guys can check out her Twitter and show this. I'm just going to discuss. I've read the article and pretty much the general gist. Like we all kind of know the general gist. It's kind of describing that, but it's a good read. Go read it. But I'm gonna make this discussion, and I mean this when I say this. Like, they said Stephanie White's exactly who the Fever wanted to lead the Caitlin Clark era. A year in, the biggest hurdle she faces is managing the effects of microscope on Caitlin Clark and consequently the entire organization. Like, look, I kind of get that. Like, I've never questioned Stephanie White's ability to deal with Caitlin Clark the human. And like, I'm gonna be real here. The way the Indiana Fever and everything's been framed with Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White, for me it just feels like Caitlin Clark is almost being talked at, or Stephanie White is almost being talked about like she's Caitlin Clark's babysitter. Like, that's just for me what it feels like. That everything is, this is a personal story about what the two of them like each other as people. Yeah, I have no doubt about it. Like, as a fan, Stephanie White frustrates the fuck out of me. But you could see by last year's playoffs, the entire team very clearly was playing for Stephanie White. Like, you don't put in the effort that they put in if you're not playing for your coach. So, I'm not out here going to be saying that, Stephanie White is ruining the Indiana Fever or anything. Or say not Stephanie White's ruining. Stephanie White hates Caitlin Clark, or she's doing this to humble Caitlin Clark. That's never been the case, and I never understood why people pushed that narrative, because it was clearly false. There are certain narratives that are clearly right, certain narratives that are clearly false. But everything is that, like, the only justification that anyone has ever given for Stephanie White being the long-term coach for the Fever is, look, she has a good relationship with Caitlin Clark off the floor. There's never been a basketball reason that somebody has given for why Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark are going to work together. And by the way, there's no way that either Stephanie White or Caitlin Clark are going to call for the other's head. There's no way for that if that happens. There's absolutely no way. But in games Caitlin Clark has played, the Indiana Fever have a significantly lower win rate than after their 2-8 start, which was their 2-9 start, where it was 11 games in 20 days, and Caitlin just came into the league and it was a disaster. After the 2-9 start, the Indiana Fever from then on had a better record under Christie sides than they have with Caitlin Clark playing at Stephanie White by a non-insignificant amount. Something's not working on the court. And that's the problem, is that you're looking at Stephanie White. For me, this is the biggest problem, is that Stephanie White is really good at coaching certain types of teams. She's very good at coaching certain systems. She's very good. People call her a defensive coach, but like, I think she had a very good bunch of defensive players in Connecticut. And you've even heard Alyssa Thomas talk about it, that they run the same stuff in Connecticut that they're running in Indiana. And I'm like, Caitlin Clark's not Alyssa Thomas. Aaliyah Boston's not Alyssa Thomas. Kelsey Mitchell's not Dwana Bonner. Lexi Hull's not Dejanay Carrington. Dejanay Carrington is this head-down driver. Lexi Hull is not. Dejanay was a player that absolutely excelled in the old rules because she used to be able to beat the shit out of people and it would never be called a foul. As was Alyssa Thomas. Like, Steph White's defense for Connecticut was just hack the shit out of them. Like, that was a large part of her defense can be boiled down to, we are going to hack the shit out of the other team and we're going to see if the refs call it. And most of the times the refs didn't. But we also have to talk a little bit about the fact that Stephanie White's job is to, managing the effects of the microscope. Like, I'm being real. Christy Sides did a good job at that. Like, Christy Sides was out of her depth. Like, people are saying bring Sides back. No. No, I joke about how Sides did a better job than Stephanie White. But, like, Sides is not a better... Chrissy Sides is the, like, second assistant coach for the Canadian... for a terrible national team. Like, that's what she's doing now. She'll probably never get another W job again. Like, Sides is so far off Stephanie White as a coach. But why is every defense of Stephanie White coaching the Indiana Fever based on Stephanie White as a person and Caitlin Clark as a person? Like, they probably are the best. They probably are close to each other. Mentality-wise, as in competitiveness and want to win, they're very similar. Why is there no media discussing the fact that they're philosophically, they have two different ways of looking at basketball, two completely different ways of looking at basketball. They have two different ways they want to play basketball, and Stephanie White, her system that she wants to run, she will willingly let Caitlin Clark foul out of a damn game because. To Stephanie White, she's another player. I'm sorry, there's an important... Like, we all know this when it comes to superstars. When it comes to, if you have LeBron, if you have Stephen Curry, if you have Jordan, I'm not saying she's any of them, but if you have somebody that is the reason why people show up, there's a certain amount of... Like, there's some amount of care you have to take with that. You cannot... Like, as a coach, when it comes to treating them as individual people... Yes, she's not bigger in the program. She's another member of the team. But people seem to think, people are like, you know what, like Stephanie White, the team's not performing. And they're like, okay, yeah, but look, Stephanie White, like Caitlin Clark likes her, so therefore she should be kept long term. And it's like, she could be kept long term for Caitlin Clark, but it's like, you also take into account that they play boring basketball people don't want to watch. Like, that has to be taken into account too. It really does. And it's like, you can't play boring basketball and lose. You can't not cater anything in your system to your larger-than-life figure on the basketball court, because a lot of the microscope on Caitlin Clark is purely basketball related. It's not purely basketball related, but the positive microscope on Caitlin Clark, there's positives and negatives. Every positive thing that comes from having Caitlin Clark is basketball related. If you turn Caitlin Clark into an ordinary player, all those positive things about having Caitlin Clark, but being Caitlin Clark, become gone. And it becomes a case where it's just the negative things. And we saw it in Chicago. When Angel Reese was being asked to be a fucking point guard. And it was an unmitigated disaster. Like, she's there being asked to be a point guard, and it's just a complete and utter disaster. But yet, she goes to Atlanta, she can play her role, she's killing it. You've got, for lack of a better word, the best offensive point guard the league's ever seen. Like, on her day, she's the best offensive point guard the league has ever seen. But as a coach, why is nobody pointing out the fact that she's trying to turn her into Breanna Mabry? And you're saying, why am I not saying, like, oh, Stephen Curry? Because she's not a good enough off-the-ball mover or shooter going right or cutter to be Stephen Curry. Like, the way Steph White wants to play her ceiling is Breanna Mabry. Like, I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, it is what it is. Like, if you asked Michael Jordan to play exclusively at power forward, his ceiling might have been Charles Barkley. Like... And it is what it is. Like, that's basketball. If you asked fucking... I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. If you asked fucking... something that's not absolutely ridiculous. Like, fucking Giannis. Giannis played point guard under Jason Kidd. If you ask Giannis to play exclusively point guard for his entire career, his ceiling is what, prime Ben Simmons? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's the job of your coach is to get your team firing on all cylinders. And especially when you have a player like Caitlin Clark, your job is to make sure that you use Caitlin Clark's strengths and hide her weaknesses. In Stephanie White's system, Caitlin is playing to her weaknesses. Like, it's at the stage where her weaknesses are amplified and her strengths are minimized. Why is no one ever talking about that? Why is it always this thing about their personal relationship? I have no doubt they like each other. I have absolutely no doubt they like each other. And I'm sorry, liking your star player is not enough to keep a clearly relationship on the court that is not working and has not worked since last year. There were people saying this a year ago. It has not worked since last year. And again, Stephanie White loves coaching Caitlin Clark the human. I have no doubt about that. Stephanie White wants to coach Caitlin Clark the human. Stephanie White would love to mold Caitlin Clark into a basketball player that she wants to coach. But the thing is, the current basketball player that Caitlin Clark does not fit Steph White's system. Caitlin Clark, I'm not even joking that much. This is a bit of an exaggeration, but it's not that much of an exaggeration. If you replaced Caitlin Clark with Brittany Sykes, I think the Indiana Fever improve. As long as Stephanie White's coaching. Like, if you replace Caitlin Clark with Layla Lacan, the Fever get way better. Ironically, again, if you replace Caitlin Clark with either of Sykes or Lacan, those teams also become playoff teams. But why is all the conversation about, oh, they like each other and never about ball?